What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the GSN Podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, here with our golf analyst, golf insider, Sobo, the man, the myth, the legend. I'm so happy to have him back here on the GSN. Sobo, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, John. How are you? Thanks for having me. It's been a couple of years, and I don't know about all that intro. I'm just a middle of the road guy with a little background. That's all I got.
Oh,
I'm no better than the next guy down the street. I just follow the game, and I was in the industry for a long time, as you well know. And you can come over to my house anytime and any day of any time during the day, and the golf channel's on. It kind of drives my wife nuts. So.
hey, you're a little too humble there, Sobo. I got to give you credit where credit's due. It's a blessing to have you on here. You got a hold of me earlier in the week, and you're like, hey, we got to talk about the players. I'm like, you read my mind. We got to talk about the players. First major of 2023. I talked about it earlier before the show. The Genesis is kind of like the icing on the cake as far as the fifth major, if you had to throw one in there. But this is the first true major, the Players Championship at TPC Sawgrass. It's going to be an electric one. I'm super excited. And at Ponte Verde Beach. I mean, it's a classic track. We know the track. We've seen the track be played. You've probably seen it played more than I have, guaranteed to have. And it's looking in prime condition. I've seen some images, seen some videos of the track already, and it looks like it's in great shape, great playing conditions. So they're looking to have great weather down there. What are your early predictions going forward? We'll start out very broad strokes. What are we expecting going into tomorrow's, first round? What are we expecting?
Well, you'll always find probably two or three guys that come out of nowhere, right? Your long shots per se. The pundits want to call the guys that will wake up and go out and shoot 64 or 65. That no name, whoever it may be. It's been a couple years since I've been on, and I was thinking about that. When you and I were texting back and forth, I think the last time we were on, somebody mentioned the name Max Homa, and I remember that pretty vividly. And now you look at Max today, and I think he's won two or three times already this year. He's one of my favorites. I picked him in one of my pools, and you gotta like Scotty Scheffler. He's defending champion. I've always said that. I told a buddy of mine today, I said, I don't care what game it is. I don't care what sport it is. I don't care if it's duck hunting. I don't care if it's fishing. If you and your partner are the champ has always got the X on his back, and he's always going to try and go for a second repeat. So, those two guys right there, I like. We also have to take a hard look at that Canadian. I know a Canadian in your family is going to love this. And I know how tight you are over there in Windsor. So
Yeah.
all your Windsor fans that are watching right now, I like Corey Connors. He's strong. He's a top 10, top 15 type guy. Fares well there. And he's one of those guys that, he'll grind out your 68, 69, 67, and come Sunday, he's 10, 11 under, 3, 4, 5 shots back, and anything can happen. And then, the last guy that I like, who I've entered into a per se pool, is Tyrell Hatton. He's had a good year so far, and he's kind of quiet. One of those guys that's quiet and goes about his business. So those are my, and then, we look at all the other ones that everybody else is talking about. And I think you probably are working off of two or three screens. So if you pull up BSPN or Golf Digest or one of those, you're going to see the familiar names of Rory McIlroy, JT, all those guys. There's just so many good players out there, John. And I think, when you and I spoke a couple years ago before the Masters, I think you and I had a really good discussion. You asked me where I thought the game was, and it's going full 360 right now. I said it was in good hands, and I still believe that today, to this day, with what's taking place out on the tour with all these young kids coming in. There's another guy out there. Actually, I take that back. I don't think we took Hatton. We took Thagala. We took Thagala. You know who I'm talking
Oh
about?
yeah. Yep, Tigala. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep, yep. So
He's been making
he's the
splashes.
other. Yep, he's the other guy that we liked.
Okay.
So, Hatton's still there, um, but going back 3 years ago, I said that the game was in good hands, and I was thinking about that the other day while I was watching and listening to the Golf Channel, and it is. Look who's winning. Look who's the up and comers. You got guys like JT Poston. You got, even Max Homa came out of nowhere 2, 3 years ago. He was under the radar, and now he's top 10. So,
Yeah.
for this weekend, to your point, great weekend. It's a great weekend of golf. To me, the Florida swing kind of starts the season. I love January golf and everything, but you had Bay Hill last week. You got the Tour Championship, or you got the Players tomorrow starting, and you know this is a great stretch of golf the next 4 weeks because you got the Augusta 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out. These guys are going to prime their pump this week down there. I'll tell you guys a quick story. I may have shared it with you, John. I don't know, but probably 25 years ago, I had the opportunity to go down there and play. We didn't play the big course, but the best part of this story is when my wife and I went there, we played the resort course, but VJ Singh at the time was on his A game. And a lot of these guys are members down there, which you alluded to in the beginning.
Yep.
They all live down there. The tour headquarters is down there. It's
Oh
a
yeah.
beautiful grounds, beautiful facility. So, you know, we go play and we go in and check in the golf shop, and I'm in the golf industry at the time, and all these golf cars and all these lights and stuff are way back at the back of the range, and I just said something, cordially. I'm like, "What's going on out there?" And they're like, "Oh, that's VJ. He's shooting a commercial." And sure enough, he was out there shooting a commercial, and then we finished about 4.5, 5 hours later, and he was still down there banging balls. And that just goes to show you what these guys do. They work every day, every minute, and the game has just immensely changed over the course of the last 15 years. I mean, Tiger Woods, look at it now. Tiger's been on tour for 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk about the guys that have been here. Talk about the guys that have came and went through here, and then look at the track as it is today. Look at how it's grown, how it's developed. And you mentioned Max Homa, and none other than the Beeper man himself. He picked him to win at the Genesis in 21, and he goes on to win it. I think he made some good coin off of that bet. So there might have been some collaboration maybe between you and the Beeper with that pick. I don't know, but he was he was a nobody. I mean, let's just be honest. He was a nobody
Yeah, I
back
said
in those
this.
days.
I never, yeah, but it's changed.
Oh, it's changing. He's made a name for himself. He's making top tens after top 10, and putting up some really good scores. You mentioned Tyrell Hatton too, putting up some good scores over there at Bay Hill this past weekend, and he had a chance to win it as well. He kind of fell off there towards the end of it, but he really had a good chance. So I think he has a great chance going into this weekend at TPC Sawgrass to make a splash.
And a couple other guys that I like down the line that you asked me to tell you about it, that I feel you're gonna like these two names right off the top. I didn't pick them. I'm gonna kick myself more than likely. You know how that is. It's all hindsight. I'm no better than you at figuring it out. It's just fun to watch these guys play. But
Oh yeah.
Justin Rose is a journeyman. Justin Rose is a big time big player, and he fares well down there. So your viewers keep an eye on him. And the other guy that I don't think anybody in a million years would think that I would say this name because we all forgot about him. But just keep an eye on good old Ricky Fowler.
Oh boy. Ricky, huh? You think he's gonna make a splash? I mean, he's won it
Well,
there
I mean,
before.
yeah. All I'm saying is, for a guy like him, a top 15 or a top 20 is a good finish.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Ricky
Who's this
Fowler,
thing?
he's a serious golfer, but he just hasn't made a splash. He really hasn't posted a top 10
Well,
since I can remember.
yeah, I was with a guy last week. We were having lunch, and actually, he and I were talking. He's a huge golfer, remember, down at Oakland Hills, and he
Okay.
brought up his name, and I'm like, God, you're right. crazy where he just fell off the face of the earth. But I've been watching him a little bit, and he's got he's got a little bit of his demeanor back, and I think he's ready. There's a couple guys out there that I'm not too sure how they're going to do because I heard they're injured, and that's Matsuyama, who I liked last week, and I didn't know he was injured. He played terrible, and then the other guy I think is Will Zalatoris isn't doing so hot, and I know a lot of guys are
right?
hot. Well, any type of an injury with arms or anything that has to do with your golf swing, you might as well pack a lunch because
that's right.
You almost don't want to make a cut, but like I said, these guys, your top 20 guys, you go down the list right now and read them. I can tell you right now, every one of those guys have a shot at winning this thing. And, it's cliche, but again, 15 years ago it was Tiger, 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 Phil, 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 Tiger, Tiger, Tiger. It was a two-man race. Now it's, anyone can win whenever. And that's the best part of it, And we'll just we'll see how it fares over the weekend. And I think the biggest piece of it is what you talked about. Tomorrow and Friday make a big difference. And if you drew morning afternoon, which means you tee it up at Thursday and then you got Friday afternoon, I think you're favorable. If you go afternoon morning, you're playing basically 36 holes in a 24-hour span, and a lot of people don't look at it that way. Where, a guy like Connors or somebody can go out tomorrow, shoot 66, and he doesn't have to play again until maybe noon or 1 o'clock on Friday. He'll know what he needs to shoot noon or 1 o'clock on Friday, just based on all the scores, because 75% of your rounds are going to be completed. So they're going to already have a projected cut of +1 or even or whatever the number is.
Yeah, that is true. I guess either way you look at it, it can work to your benefit or your detriment in either way. Because you're playing in the morning on Thursday, you're basically setting the tone. You're setting that cut line, essentially. You're setting the score to beat for those guys playing later in the day, and they see those leaderboards, on every other hole or whatever it is.
Sure.
But then if you're playing in the afternoon on Thursday, you already know the score to beat. So then you're doing that. But then the downside to that is you're like playing 36 holes in 24-hour span. So if you're a younger guy, or if you can have that stamina to be able to do that, you're not battling injuries like say a Tiger that he was. I think he was happy that he made the cut, but he was also kind of like, oh man, I don't know if I could put my body through this. So he was kind of having that type of mentality, and still finished out and still did his thing, and I'm sure he's in recovery mode still, since he played the Genesis, made his comeback. But either way you slice it, there's good things, there's bad things. So just it all comes down to stamina, and it comes down to that will to win. Do you have that will to win? So.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a grind down there, and just like we were talking about when I was down there. I mean, you're going back 25 years ago. It's changed the golf course. They've lengthened these golf courses. Equipment's different, and your top 40 guys. It's not what it was 25 years ago. Tiger built that whole regime of so a guy like JT or Spieth. There's another name that we didn't throw in the mix. All these guys have 8 to 10 different guys with them. They have one trainer, they have a swing coach, they have a nutritionist, they have whatever it may be, security. I mean,
equipment guys.
Yeah, I mean they are athletes, and that's everybody 30 40 years ago you weren't a golfer. You went out and you played for a little money. They just said last night, I heard this is the largest purse for the players.
Is that right?
Yeah, 3.25 or it's more than that, but I don't. Maybe that's what the winner's getting. I really haven't dug into it.
Okay.
But think about that. Think about the amount of money that's being made out there, and then for a second, and trust me, a quick second. I was not a fan of the Live, so I don't know where you stood on that. I think you and I swapped a couple text messages.
Well, you brought me right into that transition point because we gotta talk about the Live Golf, and you mentioned the money, you mentioned the purse,
Nothing
and
to
we
talk
have to
about.
talk about the money because the PGA Tour, they're getting to a point where they're almost having a gun to their head to a certain extent. Now we can have this conversation too. I haven't had it with you yet, not the full deal, and I want to, because this is the first major in 2023. The Live Golf Tour, their season just started as well. How does this clash of two leagues, how is this going to fare in 2023? There's already bad blood.
Yeah,
You
I
got
don't.
tons
I
of
mean,
big athletes playing for Live
I
now.
don't. I don't know. I was never. I was never a fan of it from the word go. I didn't like how it went down. I think Norman knew what he was doing. Mickelson was involved. Mickelson, and the rest of these guys who took off. I hate to tell you this, but in my opinion, which again, I'm just a middle of the road guy who followed a lot of golf. I don't feel like these guys recalled where their game started and who started paying them all this money 15, 20 years ago when they got out on tour. The PGA Tour built it. It's the tour. And, Fred Couples made a good line, and a lot of other guys out there have said, if they want to go, they can go. It's a free world. Go ahead and go. But from what I saw and what I've been reading, is it's starting to dwindle down. They're making caddies. Caddies, they have to pay expense fees. They got to pay room and board. They don't like that. The caddies over here on the PGA Tour, a lot of people I don't think know that, but they're a union. So it's all contractual on what they get and what the player gets, and as well as I do that the caddies, that's the other portion that we omitted on that team, that Spieth and Thomas and all these top names. The caddy's the number one payment. He makes say Spieth makes 15 mil this year or 10 mil or whatever the numbers. His caddy's getting 2, if for sure, 20% for the most part, because he's a top line caddy, or maybe 15. He's getting 1.5 million dollars. So as far as the Live, I'm not a fan. I'll leave it there and take it for what it's worth. They can clash all they want, but I think the tour, Rory and Tiger came out a couple weeks ago and said they're going to elevate. They're going to elevate, 4 or 5 events to make those events, elite. Like maybe you're the one out, the Genesis you were talking about, or maybe a Bay Hill, or Phoenix has already been, elevated to get names and players. So I don't know. And then again, John, you got to remember something. You're talking to a purist. You're not talking to somebody that is 20 something that. And I think that's where a lot of that comes from is and that, with all due respect, that's fine, but I'm a purist, man. I believe in the tour started and the tour's going to finish, and I think the tour's going to sustain, and I don't think Live will.
Well, yeah, you bring up a lot of good points there, Sobo, and it comes down to the legacy. Who built Greg Norman? It wasn't an outside tour. It was the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour gave Greg Norman the life he has today. So for him to kind of do this and basically stab the PGA Tour in the back to even pursue something like this, and not want to make an affiliate tour, something that is connected, like a Korn Ferry Tour or a DP World Tour or Web.com Tour, something that's affiliated to the PGA Tour that has so much legacy, centuries worth of legacy, where, going back hundreds of years to the birth of golf. I mean, this is the first league for golf, the first professional league. So I look at the legacy aspect of it. Players like JT, Rory, Tiger, and others in that same caliber, in that same breath, they have that same mentality with the legacy. They believe in the legacy. So I think that hurts them, that a lot of their friends, a lot of their close colleagues or past colleagues, a big surprise for me was Cam Smith when he won the British and then said, all right, well, see you guys, I'm going to go join Live. That was a surprise to me because I thought he was a legacy guy. And there's other ones like that really preached and said, hey, I'm never going to go to Live. I can't believe that a lot of these guys did that. And then next thing you know, they're jumping ship and joining Live. So that there must be something in the water there. I don't know if there's things being promised to them. There's something fishy about it. It's going to come out at some point. I know it will.
Well, I think you're right. And I mean, I think you and I are on the same lane here in terms
Definitely.
of. I haven't even watched the swing. I could care less. My gut, like I said, all the events that I've ever been to, I've been to the U.S. Open, I've been to the Masters, I've been to a PGA when Davis Love won, I've been to the Buick a million times, probably like you.
Oh,
A
yeah.
couple of the LPGA events up in Midland and different events, and I don't know, whatever. It's I think it's greed, and I think sooner or later that money's going to run dry, and they're going to come back with their tails between their legs, saying, "When can I get back on the tour? You guys were right."
That's
And I
right.
think if the tour wants to hardline them and tell them to pack sand, they should.
That's what I said they should do. I said that since day one. If they want to come in and play these PGA Tour sanctioned events, I guess I heard from this. I actually heard this through my partner Sam Vitale, big golf guy here that does the GSN with me. He said that the majors are independently owned and they're not owned or sanctioned by the PGA Tour per se. Because you look at the U.S. Open, an amateur can go in and play in the U.S.
Right.
Open if they qualify, right? So,
Yeah.
or the Masters, you got to be invited to play in the Masters. It's privately owned, privately ran tournament. They have their own board of directors, board of governors that they conduct all the rules and they sanction everything else inside of that under the umbrella of Augusta. So it's kind of interesting how the dynamic of every one of these majors works. But you see them played close to and forever they've been played under and with the PGA Tour. So it's like they're synonymous. Even if they're not sanctioned by the PGA Tour directly, it's still a PGA Tour event in our minds because it's always been that way. It's only
Correct.
changed in recent years because Live Golf has, came up out of the ether and into existence. So it's kind of a cluster, but I think, like you said, the well will run dry at some point. It just doesn't have the production value. I don't know if you've ever taken the time and had the pleasure to watch a Live Golf event, but the production value just isn't there. It's just not there. I don't know what it is.
Nope.
Zero,
I,
and you're
the
doing
whole
yourself a service by not wasting your time.
I
Let me tell
don't,
you.
but we'll see. And you brought up a good point, real quick, and that's, and I think we talked about this a couple of years ago. Is the Masters played at Augusta, the Players Championships played down there at the PGA headquarters in Jacksonville or Ponte Vedra, and then your other three events. British Open is a, that's the British or the English Open. So that's really not a PGA Tour event. That event you're invited or you qualify. So that really leaves you with the PGA and the USA or the US Open. And you brought up the point that you and I could qualify for the US Open
Yep.
if your handicap's good enough. So the PGA Tour has just stayed very close to a majority of these major events, and it also plays into what you got to keep in mind that Augusta and tomorrow or this weekend are the only two events that are played at the same event or same venue every year.
That's right.
You
That is
know,
true.
the PGA moves around and the U.S. Open moves around, and it just depends on where you want to go and where the
British.
tour wants
Yeah.
to go, and the R&A over at the British Open. Wherever they want to go, they go. So,
That's right.
money and TV's controlling everything we know in sponsorships, but. I was just flipping. We're talking about this weekend and how big it is. So here's a nice little some tidbit for you,
Let's hear it.
real quick. Looks like it's going to be 70 with a little wind out of the east, so it's coming off the ocean as expected.
Oh yeah.
And then Friday you're looking at a little partly clouded. Temperature's going to drop. Well, actually, the temperature's going up, upwards to 80, and obviously there's always scattered thunderstorms down there, so you might see some rain Friday afternoon. So and then it gets very cool on Saturday. 60 degrees at 10 a.m. and upwards to back up into the 70s later in the day. So it'll be interesting to see how the golf course is.
Yeah, that's true. Sobo the weatherman. I think
Well, I tell you, weather
that's a
plays a
segment.
lot. Weather's going to play a big part of this weekend. I mean, the golf course is going to be fast. I think you're going to see the fairways roll out. You're going to see a lot of good iron play, I think, and you better be able to drive the golf ball in play as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's one thing about Sawgrass. You got to keep the ball in play. You got to hit your irons well. You got to have the low punch shot. You got to even have somewhat of a modified stinger just to kind of cut through some of that wind, maybe hit a line, a little bit of a cut to it. Got to be creative at Sawgrass. That's why, not everybody can win there. A really specific type of player has to play a very specific type of golf to play well there. So you'll see the men be separated from the boys real early, probably tomorrow. We'll see that. Definitely Friday going into the cut line, we'll be seeing the men be separated from the boys real quick. Just last thing, we got to look at this first and foremost. I'm on golf.com right now looking at the odds, the live odds to win it. Looks like a long shot to start is Siwoo Kim, 90-1. And they haven't impressed him. They have everything here. And then Sung Jae Im, 40-1. Tyrell Hatton, as you mentioned, 35-1. Not bad odds. Jason Day, 32-1.
There's another name I like.
Go ahead. Yeah, Jason Day.
He's another name you can throw in a hat.
Definitely. You got Morikawa, 27-1. Patrick Cantlay as the basically as a favorite, 16-1.
Those guys are players, man. Every one of them. Go down the list, this weekend and look at the top 40, and you could put any one of those guys in the hat, and it should be interesting. And this is a great. Last second here, and we can end it here, but and I think I shared this with you guys a couple of years ago. This is my favorite time of the year, man. There's nothing better. If you're a sports junkie, you can sit in front of your TV the next 6 weeks and you're not going to get bored. You got the players,
that's right.
You got the Big Ten championship, and then you jump right into NCAA March Madness next week, and then the player. I don't know where the tour goes. They may go to Hilton Head next week.
Okay.
But that doesn't matter. You got the NBA, coming down to the wire. You got the NHL coming down to the wire. Then you roll into April. You got the Final Four, opening day of baseball. Hockey's over. Basketball's over. You're going into the playoffs, and then boom, you got the Masters. So you tell me what's better between. Let's see, today's the 8th, all the way through. I think April 13th is the last day of the. Well, be April 14th for the NCAA finals.
That's right. I mean, they have the sports eclipse. It's kind of in the fall. That's where kind of the convergence happens. You have NHL starting. You got you got MLB playoffs. You got NBA starting. NCAA basketball, football still going full force. That's the eclipse. This is like the Christmas season because you have March Madness, everything you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful time to be a sports guy because you never have nothing to watch. And I know it's a double negative for my grammar Nazis out there, but you always have something on the TV to watch. You always have something to look forward to, and then you top it all off with the Masters in April, and it really just doesn't get any better than that. So
yeah, it's a good time of the year, and I know you and I have a common denominator and one little team down the road about 50 miles away. So
oh yes, we do.
We'll see how that all shakes out. Big Ten tournament is big, but it's not next week. Would I like to see them win one or two games this weekend? Yeah. Will they? We don't know. It depends on what team shows up. Let's just see what happens. We'll see where the chips fall, and we'll connect soon. And I'll wrap you up with Scotty Scheffler, Homa, my friends over in Ontario. Growing up in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, I have a lot of love for the Ontario folks. So I do like Corey Connors this week and Thigala. So those would be my four, and those other names I threw out there. You're always going to have your horses: McIlroy, JT, Morikawa, Zalatoris, some of these other guys. But just enjoy the weekend, man. Enjoy the golf.
Yes, sir. That's right. Hey, I'm actually headed up to Searchmont up in Sault Ste. Marie next weekend. So any suggestions while I'm up there to see the sights?
Buy your beer across the river.
Okay. You got it. You got
Your
it.
your your family in Ontario will understand that.
Oh yeah,
I'll tell
definitely.
you. I'll tell you the backstory on that someday.
Okay. Probably not on air
No,
appropriate.
it might get me jammed up.
All right, Sobo. All right, good deal. Well, good deal. All right, we'll get that information, put it in a blender, and then we'll see what comes out tomorrow, going into the first round of the Players Championship, going down at Ponte Verde Beach, Florida, at TPC Sawgrass, a beautiful classic track, exciting event, and I'm looking forward to it. You could have a dark horse come out of nowhere and be a top 10 guy going into Sunday. So that's the most exciting part about this event. Is anyone can win, but you need to play a very specific type of golf. You got to be, really level-headed to play well here. So a lot of things to look forward to. You got the expert analysis from Sobo. What are you, the viewer, going to do with that knowledge? That's the question. So we'll leave it at that. Good deal. All right, guys, make sure to check us out on social media. Our link tree is in the bottom of this podcast. Check out our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, for all information, all IG posts, updates, and articles for your pleasure. And we'll leave it at that. Make sure to check us out next time on the GSN Podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, here with Sobo. Have a great night.